Chumash and Rashi, the Torah portion, Vayeira, the fifth reading. We go right into it. Okay. Avram. Ben Ameas Shana, and Avram was 100 years old. When the birth of to him Yitzchak, his son. Right. Yesterday, actually, the part that we missed was the birth to Sarah of Yitzchak. We're continuing. Excuse me. Vataimer Sarah, and Sarah said, Sarah, Tzchoik. Happiness translates over here. Or it could be, will laugh. Also, Li Elohim, God made for me, a laugh. Yitzchakli, anybody who will hear, Yitzchakli will laugh for me. Again, I'm giving you the literal, right? Let's look in Rashi now. Yitzchakli, Yismach alai. So the translation over here, right, will rejoice for me, right? So when you see the translation here on screen, right, on the screen over here, it's giving you the way Rashi is translating it. Okay. So Midrash Agada, that's the simple meaning. And then the Midrash explains. Harba Akaras, there were many women that were infertile. Nifkedu Ima, that were conceived along at the same time, were remembered and also conceived at the same time. Harbe Chelim, there are many sick people Nisrapu that were cured on that day. Harbe Tfilas Nenu Ima, many prayers were answered along with hers. There was much cheerfulness in the world. So the Yitzchak Li, meaning the cheerfulness to me, because of me, right? Because of what happened to her, so it extended to many other people too. That's the Medrash. As we've been learning Rashi and trying to be very precise in understanding Rashi, why would Rashi bring the Medrash over here? There's obviously something with the first explanation that is not suffice. Okay. And she said, Mimilel Avraham, who is he who said to Avraham, God, right, Hanika name that Sarah will nurse children. Sarah kiladita ben lizkunab, for I have given birth to a son at an old age. So Rashi, Mimilel Lavram, who is he who said to Avraham, Lashon Shevach v'chashivos. It's an expression of praise. Shevach means praise, and chashivos means importance. Re'usi. Mibara mihu bekama hu shomer haftachose. Who is he, God, and how much he fulfills his promise? HaKadosh Baruch Hu maftiach v'yiseh. God promises and fulfills his promise. Right? Because he is the one who said, right, that she's going to give birth. So now God is fulfilling that promise. Milel, shina kasav v'loy amar dib. The word milel is not the usual term. The verse is changing the expression, the usual word of diber, right? And using the word milel. Why? Gematria shaloi kuf. Because the numeric value is 100. Mem is 40. Lamed is 30. 2 times Lamed, so that's 2 times 30 plus 40 equals 100. Meaning, so it's like hinting or signifying over here that that the end of Avram's 100th year, that he's giving birth, or I mean that his wife is giving birth, right? That he has a son. Rashi continues. Heinika vonim l'sora. That Sarah would nurse children. Ma'uvanim lashon rabim. So Rashi asks a question: why is this in plural? She only had one son, so why is it being said in the plural? So Rashi explains, because on the day of the feast, Asar is b'nei Mohem, the princesses who came when Yitzhak was born, they brought children with them. Venikas Isam and Sarah nursed them. Shahu Oimrais, the princes were saying, Sarah did not give birth. They brought an abandoned child from the marketplace, right? And she claims that it's her son. So she nursed them all, and there was no question that this was indeed her son. In other words, right after you give birth, so the capability of nursing kicks in, and she was able to nurse even other children. That's why it says in the plural, banim. Verse number 8, V'yigdal ha'yeled. The Yeled grew up, Yigamal, and he was weaned. Right. Vayas Avram Mishta, and Avram made a feast, Gadol, a big one. But Yomi Gamal is Yitzchak, in the day that he weaned Yitzchak. Rashi Gamal L'Seif Chav Daled Chodesh. What does it mean he was weaned? At the end of 24 months. That's an halacha that for the first 24 months, there's nursing. And so that's what the reference is over here. Mishte Gadol, he made a great feast. They were there, great people, the great, men of the generation. The Aver Babi Melech, who, for example, Shem, Aver, Shem, Aver, and Babi Melech. They were there at this feast. Okay. Verse number 9. The Tevir Sarah. And Sarah saw as Ben Hagar. She saw the son of Hagar, Hamitzris, the Egyptian, right? Hagar was Egyptian. She was an Egyptian princess, remember? Asher Yalda Avram Mitzachek, that was born to Avraham Mitzachek. The word Yitzchak there, right? So here, it's interesting. So it means kind of, well, we're gonna see Rashi, but here it gives a translation already of what Rashi is going to say. But again, mitzachik means over here kind of like playing around, right? That's how you would play, like joking around, just like as before I said that the translation was laughing, right? So like joking around. But Rashi explains in number 9, mitzachek, or mocking, maybe is a better word to use to translate the word lashon avodah zarah. It connotes over here idolatry. As it says, yakumu letzachek, that they got up to sport. You know where that is? By the golden calf. Same term that's used. Davar acher, that's one explanation. An alternative explanation, lashon gilui arayis, it means sexual immorality. Come out the tema. As you say in the verse, letzachek be, to make sport of me, right? Yeah, make sport of me means you're making a joke of me, but it could mean idolatry. But it could mean actually sexual immorality. A third explanation, it could be lashon ritzicha, means murder. As the verse says, let the lads get up, and sport before us. It's a Zishmoel associated with here with murder. Wow. right? That's from Tanakh. Shaya Meriv im Yitzchak, because there was content with Yitzchak, Allah Yerush, over the inheritance, who would receive after Avram's passing, Vayeira, Ani Bechor, and he would say, I am the firstborn, right? In other words, Yishmael is the firstborn, not Yitzchak, and therefore he's entitled to take a double share of the inheritance. They go out in the field, but night like Kashte, and Ishmael would take a bow, and would shoot arrows at Yitzchak. Sorry, as you say, again, a situation describes in the verse, Mishalalai, one who tires himself, Hayerizikim, from shooting fireballs. Am I not just jesting? And now the Ishmael was shooting arrows at Yitzchak with the intent to kill him, but he was, I'm just joking. In other words, he's showing over here the idea of there's three things that the verse is saying, right? Idolatry, illicit relations, and murder. Okay. Just realize that over here it didn't give this whole explanation I just gave. All right, number 10. Vayeira Avram, and she, who's she? Sarah said to Avram, Garish ha'ama, cast away the bondswoman, Hazois, this one, Bezbanah, and her son. Kiloi Yirash, because he will not inherit Ben Ha'ama, the son of the maidservant, Hazois, is Beni, my son, Im Yitzchak, together with Yitzchak. So why, if you say my son, why do you have to say Yitzchak? If you said Yitzchak, you don't have to say my son, right? Well, let's see Rashi. Number 10, Im Yitzchak. Even Shu Beni. Oh, okay. So in the Rashi, I don't know, how's it in the Rashi I have over here, the explanation I gave previously is the explanation now. So we're going to do the second Rashi over here. In Beni Im Yitzchak. Number 10. Right? Mikibet Shu Beni, since he's my son, so Yishmael will not inherit with him. Even if he's not upright, even if he were not upright as Yitzchak actually is, or if he was just upright ki Yitzchak, he was not my son, Yishmael is not worthy to inherit with him. All the more so when Yitzchak, if he's my son and he's Yitzchak. Him, because both of these qualities, meaning that it's her son and that he is righteous, are the truth. That's why the redundancy, right? She's making the argument to her husband, to Avraham, that if he alone was not if he was just my son, that alone is a reason, and he wasn't righteous like Yitzchak, that would be enough. And if he was righteous and not my son, as Yitzchak is, that would be a sufficient reason. And now there's sufficient reason that Yishmael should not be part of the inheritance. Because not only he's not my son, he's not righteous. Right? How do we see that? Because he's trying to kill Yitzchak. Right. So therefore the repetition. Verse 11. Vayeira, and it was very evil. Very bad. Very much so. Be'enei Avram, in the eyes of Haram, al eidais benai. He was just over his son, meaning over, that he should send away his son, Ishmael. Al eidais benai, Rashi, on account of his son, Shishama sheyatza l'tar b'Yisrael. concerning his son. What was very evil in his son? Because he had heard that Ishmael had gone out into evil ways. But the simple meaning, because she had suggested to him, or told him rather, not just suggested, that he should send them away. That was evil in his eyes. So why does Rashi bring the first explanation? And he says the simple one is because she was telling him, send away, and that's only a second explanation. You need to understand. 12. Avram. And God said to Avram, Al yira beinecha, should not be evil in your eyes, al anar, concerning the lad, and concerning the maidservant, kol asher teimar elecha, everything that is said to you, that she says to you, elecha, to you, Sarah, your what? Sarah, Shema b'keila, listen to her voice. Listen to what she says. Kibi Yitzchak, and he gives a reason. Kibi Yitzchak, yikar l'chazara, because in Yitzchak he will be called to you, your seed. Meaning, he's going to be he's your rightful descendant. Shema b'keila, listen to her. Lamadna mishaya Avram tofel l'sara b'nevius. This teaches us that Avram was secondary to her in prophetic vision. Fascinating, huh? She was greater a prophetess than he was a prophet. Kind of had an inkling of that before, right? When she was in Pharaoh's palace and Avimelech, right? She was able to control things there, even under bondage, right? Gamet's been a Amal Goya Simenu, and also the son of the maidservant to a nation. I will place him. Ki zarechahu, not because he's special, because he's your offspring. You get that? That all the descendants of Ishmael, their value is not in themselves, but because they're the descendants of Avram.
So from the birth of Abraham,
they have offspring, they have a nation. Right? Wow. They somewhat recognize it, by the way. Somewhat recognize, not entirely, but somewhat. Yashkim Avram, and he got up Avram Babaker in the morning, v'yikach lechem, and he took bread, chemas mayim, and a flask of water, v'yiten al Hagar, and he gave it to Hagar, some al Shichma, and he placed it on her shoulder. V'asayela, together with the child, v'shalcheha, and he sent her away, v'telech, and she went, v'tesa, and she wandered, Bamidbar, in the desert, Beersheva, Rashi in 14. We're good, everybody? Okay. Rashi. Lechem, bread and a flask of water, veloy kesef, but not kesef, not money, not silver, v'zav, and not gold. Why? Lefi shahaya soinai, because Avram hated Ishmael al sheyotza, because he went out the tarbis ra to evil behavior. Wow.
But isn't hate there a strong word? To use the word hate, isn't that a strong word? He hated him.
That's what the words say. You're asking why Rashi's saying that?
Because he hated him since he had fallen into bad company. It's a child. Would you hate your child? Would you?
I mean, he wasn't a child. He was 14 years old.
But to use the word hate, you didn't agree with his ways, then he disliked his ways, but to say you hated him, I think that's very, very strong there, among other things.
Maybe he meant he hated what he was doing.
Well, right, I could understand that, but it said that he hated him since he had fallen into bad ways.
Okay. I hear Well, let's go forward. I don't have an answer at the moment. Yes, I yelled and the boy, Af, I yelled at the boy too. Some is Al Shichma, he placed on her shoulder. Ichnisa by Sarah Ayin Ra. Sarah had implanted an evil eye into Ishmael. Chazata Chema, and a fever took hold of him, and he wasn't able to go on his feet. Right? Because the verse says that he placed, he's 14 years old. What's he putting on her shoulder? Because he was sick. Because Sarah put an evil eye on him and he became sick. She went and she strayed. She went back to the idols of her father's household. That's what it means she strayed. Literally, she strayed. Not just she couldn't find her way physically in the desert, but spiritually she strayed. 15. And the water ended the water from the flask. And she threw the child under one of the bushes. Rashi, the water's finished. We're all used up. Because it's the way of sick people to drink a lot. Right? He had a fever, so he was drinking a lot. Well, why? I guess because Avram is a kind person and he wouldn't give just a small amount of water that that it wouldn't be enough for them. He gave sufficient, but child became sick, so if he drank up the water, quicker. She went, and she sat, love for herself, mineged, from a distance, from across a distance, keshes, like an arrow shot. Ki amra, because she said, Al ereb b'moisayeled, I don't want to see in the death of my child. So she sat from across. Pati says Kaila, and she lifted up her voice. And she cried. Again, remember, I'm giving you a literal translation here, so you can pick up on the words. Rashi. Mineged 16. From a distance, Mirachik. Kimatchave keshes, like a bow shot away. Kishtei tiches, like two bow shots. V'hulashin yiras chaitz. The word mitchave, which I think may be the first time we have it in Chumash, it means the shooting of an arrow. Balasha Mishnah, shehi tiyach v'ishtei, that he shot his wife. The Gemara speaks about. Just bringing an example from the Mishnah. Hashem shazer yor kechetz. Okay, that semen shoots like an arrow. And if you will say hayala lichtev ki techache, rather, keshes, coming into some grammar over here. Mishpat avav, likanas lekan. And why is there a vav in there? It's appropriate, he says. Give me some examples, examples of the grammar. Admas Yehuda Mitzrayim Lachaga, Mekizra Sechayge Yanu Keshikar, Katz Ve'eretz, Exeris Katz. Okay. And she sat at a distance, Kivan Shikar of Lamus, since she saw that it was near death. I see she distanced herself even more so. Because look at the verse, it says, it said that she was already the second word Vateshev law, that she sat for herself mineged harchek, from a distance, you know, from in front, and then it says again from a distance. So meaning she removed herself even more so because she saw him in his death. 1 second. Okay, 17. V'yishma Elohim, and God heard his Kil Hanar, the voice of the lad, Vayikra Malach, and an angel, Elohim, an angel of God called out El Hagar to Hagar, Mina Shammai from heaven. Vayeira lo, and he said to her, Malach Hagar, what's going on? You know, what's going on? Like, what's bothering you? Altiri, do not fear, Kisham Elohim, because he heard God is Kol Hanar, the voice of the lad, Ba'asher Husham, in that where he is literal. Ba'asher, in that which Husham, that's where he is, meaning in his. Well, we'll see Rashi. It's Kol Hanar, Rashi 17. The voice of the lad, Mikan, from here we hear from here we see that the prayer of the sick is more effective than rather than others who pray on their behalf. And it is answered first before the prayers of others. Because look, coming to answer the boy, she was also praying, right? She was also in praying in distress. But whose answer? The lad is. Why? Because he's the one that's sick. So God answers that first. That's right. Ba'asher Husham, as he is there, Lefi Maisim, in accordance with the deeds, Shuhu Oisa Akshav, that he does at present. Hunidain, he is judged. V'loi lefi ma shuhu osi lases, and not in accordance with what he is destined to do. Lefi shaya malachi asharetz mikatrim, or the ministering angels were mikatrim. They were how do you translate mikatrim? Incriminating. Yes, they're incriminating. Ba'imim, they're saying, "Rabbani Shalom, Master of the universe, mi osi laosi lezare lahamis banecha." Who is destined? Who are descendants are destined to put your children to death? B'tzamo, by thirst. Atamayla le'be'er, and you cause a well to rise up for him. Umeshivam, and he answered them, Akshav mahu. But right now, what is he? Tzaddik or Rasha? Amru, is he righteous or is he wicked? Tzaddik, he's righteous. Amar lehem, he said, if he ma'asav ani shalach in accordance to his present deeds, I present ani donai, I judge him. Wow, ba'asher husham, meaning I'm judging him in according. Wow, look at this Rashi. You know what Rashi just said? I know what they're going to do to the Jews afterwards, right? So that the angels are saying, what are you giving him? What are you taking care of him? He's going to do ill to the Jews. Wow. Look at that. That's what's going on today. How could they, God knows, he knows what's going to happen. What kind of horrific things they're going to do. He knows about October 7th. He knows about 1929 Chevron. He knows all of it. Yet, Basher Husham, meaning where he is now. Right now, he's not wicked. Right? Although, I don't understand that. We just said earlier that he went out to evil path. So what the heck? He was shooting arrows at Yitzchak. So what's God coming and saying, like, he's not so bad right now? He'll be in the... What do you mean? What the heck? Could have finished the whole job then. To take care of everything. We wouldn't have to deal with it today.
But there's plan B.
Obviously, it was not meant to be that way.
There's plan B.
Yeah, but yes. We're in plan B right now. Oh my gosh.
Amazingly, this is all red, Rosh Hashanah. The Rosh Hashanah.
It's right on.
Yeah.
Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's the birth of Yitzchak. She conceives on Rosh Hashanah, and it's his birth. Yeah, but that's included. Wow. So I don't get this at all. Okay. So it must mean in this moment that he's righteous. Earlier he wasn't, and that's why he was sent away, in the end.
So how
Right.
can it be?
So God's judging in this moment. Is that
As
what
he
it
said.
means? That's the only,
That's his thing, because
as he said, that's the only thing I can make sense.
because he left an evil person.
Yeah,
It's
so
not a
yeah,
reason.
I'm not. That's the only thing I could understand, and even that doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah,
I don't get that. Okay, we have to see. Maybe the Rebbe speaks about it. Huh?
Makes sense if he did tshuva.
But there's no indication.
Yeah. Well, where's the indication he made tshuva?
No, so it's not. That's why it doesn't make sense.
Oh boy. Okay. Vasher Husham, so he continues. Zehu Vasher Husham. The Heicha name is Israel Ba'atzama. Where did Ishmael put Israel to death by thirst? Sheheglam and Nebuchadnezzar, when Nebuchadnezzar exiled them. Shenemaz, it says Masa Be'erev, and the prophecy concerning Arabia. Toward the thirsty, they bring water. When the Babylonians were leading the Jews, Eitzel Rabim near the Arabs, the descendants of Ishmael. Right? Wow, interesting. The Babylonians are not descendants of Ishmael. The Arabs are. Hayu Israel and Israel would say the Keshiboim to their captors, we beseech you, Ishmael, take us to the children of our uncle Ishmael. And they will have mercy on us. The caravans of cousins. And the Ishmaelites then went out to greet the Jews. And they brought them basar, the maluach, and salted fish, the naidus and nefuchim, and inflated skin flasks. Kisfurim Israel. So the Jews were under the impression that they were full of water. But when they put their mouth to the flask of water, and opened them, air entered from the flask into the body of a mace, and that killed them. Wow. Okay. Kumisi is an R. Rise and lift up the lad. And grasp him by your hand, boy him. Because I will make him into a great nation. Pikach Elohim. And God opened up her eyes, and she saw Be'er Mayim. She saw a well of water. And she went and she filled the flask with water, and she gave drink to the lad. And God was with the boy, and he grew up, and he lived in the desert, and he became an archer, robbing people. Rashi in 20. Shoot, or an archer. He would shoot arrows with a bow. Keshes, an archer. Al Shema This is the craft of archery. Chamar, a donkey driver. Gamal, a camel driver. Betzayed, a trapper. When you put a dot in the letter to emphasize it, right? It makes it into the to a noun. So Ishmael would dwell in the desert. Amalisim is Avrim, and he would rob the passerbyers. But Shenemar, that's what it says, Yad Balkel, that his hand was in everything, right? Which we learned earlier, right? When he was born. He was called a Per Adam. Guess what? He still is. Okay, 21 last. Sheba Midbar Paran, and he settled in the desert of Paran, Isha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. And she took for him, his mother, a wife from the land of Egypt. Rashi, Me'eretz Mitzrayim, from the land of Egypt, Mimokum Geduleha, place where she grew up, right? She was a princess from Egypt. Shenemar says that she was an Egyptian maidservant. I know the Ameyinish. This is what people say. The common sayings, Reik Chutra Lavira, throw a stick into the air, Yikore Koi, and it will land on its root. In other words, she's going back to her roots, right? When you throw things up, in the end, it's going to come back to where it originally came from. All right, amazing. We finished
Question
it.
for Rashi.
Lots of questions.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay, see you in a few minutes.